Alright, so I'm back, and as promised, I'm going to give my story. I don't think I really did ever on YouTube. I'm going to give my story because that way it'll create some background for you, and it'll kind of create a little bit of a rapport, or create the rapport so that you can understand that I know, where you are, and I know where you're going through, and we can work through all this together. So again, my name is Ayana Weaver, as you can see up there, and I was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is 30 minutes outside of Detroit. However, I grew up in Detroit since I was a little girl, well, I would say a baby, and so I do hail from the city of Detroit. And I went to public high school in Detroit, graduated top of my class in Detroit with honors. And out of high school in 1994, I decided to go to community college. I wanted to be a veterinarian ever since the 3rd grade, so that's what I decided to do. I went to Michigan State. 3 weeks into me being there, I found out that I was 4 months pregnant. Yeah, I had no clue. And so I decided to come back home. I wanted to stay, but my dad wouldn't pay for the education. I didn't know nothing about financial aid, student loans, Pell Grants. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know any of that. So I decided just to come home and live with my mom, and I did that for the next 2 years after that. In 1998, got my very first apartment. It was a project-based Section 8 apartment. It was a 1-bedroom apartment, and my goal at that time was to get out of that apartment before my son turned 5, and he was already 2, so I had 3 years before he turned 5. I still went to school for the veterinary medicine, but I kind of tweaked it and went for veterinary technology. In the meantime, I ended up starting a career in the year 2000. So I've been there 2 years. In the year 2000, I had started my career in property management. My uncle was a very prominent business owner in the city of Detroit and employed lots of people that I didn't even know. And I didn't grow up with him, so I didn't really know much about him. My dad sent me up there to get a job. I went up there, and I ended up being hired there. So I started there in 2000. Since we managed a lot of different properties, I ended up leaving that apartment. Yes, I left Section 8. I left Section 8 for just straight out rent. But I was doing better. And my goal at that time was to get out of that place and get a 2-bedroom, so my son would have his own room by the time he was 5. And they had 2-bedroom apartments there, but they only had 1 building for, I think they only had 4. And I was done with that. I used it for what I needed it for, and I got on. So I left there, moved into a 2-bedroom downtown Detroit. Very nice. The only downside to that was it was on the 3rd floor. But I continued to work. In the year 2000, my very first year, I was named Employee of the Month for helping out and doing a lot of things. And also during that time, I found the love of my life, which is not, it is a man, but it's not the man, the traditional, and what you're thinking, a man. It was my cousin. And I was reunited with my cousin Ron, who was my uncle's son. And it was funny, and I'll tell the story the way we met each other again. I knew that I had cousins, Courtney and Rodney, as what I thought it was when we were little kids. And I remember seeing them when we were little kids. Me and my sister were the only girls, so I knew we had all of these boy cousins. And we get to this meeting. I'm at my very first employee meeting with the company, and my Aunt Yvette's there, and I knew who she was. She came around a few times while we were growing up, and despite my mom and my dad being divorced, she did come around still. So I knew who she was, so I sat by her. So my cousin comes and he sits at the same table, And he goes, "Who's that chick over there?" My aunt just starts screaming like, "You don't know who that is?" And I'm looking at her like, "No." And he's looking at me like, "No." And she's like, "That is a damn shame. Y'all cousins. Y'all first cousins." And we were just like, "Oh." From that point on, him and I have been like this. That is my baby. I say he's the love of my life. He has given me so much perspective and insight on life, and I love him to death. And I'm only saddened that I didn't get to grow up with him. I'd probably be a hot mess, but I'm only sad that we didn't, that our parents couldn't come together enough for us to spend time with each other, because cousins are the bomb. I grew up with my cousins on my mom's side, so I can tell you the cousins are the bomb. So him and I are really close, so I'm thankful for that. So let's see, we're in 2000, so we got to get going. We got 13 years to go through. So we're in 2000. So my next goal at that point was to get back in school, and was to I had a 2-bedroom apartment. I wanted a townhouse. I wanted my own washer and dryer, because I couldn't deal with it going up and down the stairs. I have asthma, and I didn't want to carry groceries, and it's so cold in Michigan. You can leave some of your stuff. You can leave some of your stuff in the car. And so here's one dog. Here comes the other. So in an attempt to keep her from barking. So I ended up moving probably, I think, 2 years later. I had a boyfriend at the time, and 2 years later I did end up moving into a townhouse, a 2-bedroom townhouse with an upstairs, a downstairs, a basement, my own washer and dryer, everything. It was fantastic. So I kept moving up. And before I moved, that boyfriend that I had broke my heart. And I was devastated for months on end, for years on end. I was devastated. And after that, I never become the same. After I moved to that apartment, to the new townhouse, I became an Eastern Star. I became a member of the Order of the Eastern Star. I don't want to hear nothing else about that. That was a great experience for me. During my time there, I led many great projects. We gave away book scholarships. We visited nursing homes and gave away things. We had back to school festivals. We had a Christmas festival. We had an Easter shindig. We had a pajama party. I lived a life. And all the trips to Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Memphis, I had a fantastic time during that. And I've met fantastic people, some of which who I still talk to today and hold dear. So I do not regret that time whatsoever. I also went to Mardi Gras around that time. This was like 2003. I went to Mardi Gras at that time, and I didn't have a man. I was just doing me. I didn't want a man. I didn't want to see a man. Not like that. I had one guy where there was no strings attached. You do and you keep it moving. And you do it moving, as Tina would say. That's it, and that's all. I didn't want any more than that. And it was that for years. A little bit later on, I think I ended up like in a quasi relationship, and no, I ended up in a relationship, and that it was short lived. It was very short lived. But in that time, I moved from a townhouse. I moved into a house. I rented a house, and that was nice. So that relationship didn't work out. Full circle, I go back to my mom's house. This is 2005. In 2005, my niece was born in February, the day after my son's birthday, who is now 17. My son is 17. My niece was born, and then my uncle was killed in August. And then one of my really good friends lost her child in November. A lot went on for me. Oh, and I believe my girlfriend lost her grandmother that same year. So a lot went on that year. A lot went on. I ended up leaving the order. It was just a whole lot going on. And I'm back at home with my mom. and I couldn't do that anymore. So I had to go back and get me a place. So I ended up back where I lived before. I had another townhouse, and the guy that I was kind of seeing at the time, he went to Arizona with one of his friends to check it out. And he calls me on the phone and he says, "You want to move to Arizona?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "All right." So he came home. 3 weeks later, we moved to Arizona. It was January 1st, 2006 when we left. When we up and moved to Arizona. I left my job. I left everything. I didn't know what was going on. You know, I couldn't really get my mind around things. I couldn't really, my uncle was gone. That devastated everybody. And I couldn't work there. I couldn't work, you know, down at my desk and him not being there. And it just had a tremendous impact on my life. And my cousin was trying to grieve, but he was trying to maintain and hold on to what was going on. And I felt so bad for him. And I felt left out. So many feelings. So I just up and left. I ran. I did. And we lived in Arizona for a while, and that ended wrong. So from Arizona, we was there about 6 or 7 months before, no, about eight months we were there before I ended up coming back. And I ended up moving to Chicago first to stay with my girlfriend. But I had left my son in Detroit. And so I left my I went to my girlfriend's house in Chicago, and my mom was like, "You need to come get your boy." And I was like, "I don't know how I'm going to do this in Chicago." So I went back to Detroit. A friend of mine, my best friend, actually let me stay in his house until I got a job and all that stuff. I did that. And just got back on my feet. And I hated every minute of Detroit. Hated it, hated it, hated it. So I told myself, I'm going back to Arizona. I'm going to get my money together and I'm going back. It took me 1 year. I got my money together and I packed up July 2007 and I went back. And on my way back, I ended up in another relationship with a guy in 2007. We moved in together. We were already living together from the whole time we were there, because I ended up staying at a friend's house when I got there, and he was staying there too. So when I moved out, he just came with me, and so we just ended up there. And long story short, that was 3 years. 2010, I decided that, if this relationship is not going anywhere, I got to go. And my rule is, if a man doesn't know what he wants to do with you after a year, you got to go. And you know what? There are some exceptions to that rule, and I only know a few folks who withstood it. Some chick's been riding for years and years and years, and and then finally they get married and live happily ever after. But in my opinion, if a man knows what he wants from you when he meets you, and the same goes with women. We already know what we want. We know what we're looking for, and we know if you got it or not. It doesn't take all day to recognize sunshine. And so if the dude takes that long to figure out what he want to do, no. He wanted me to wait 2 more years. I said, no, I can't do it. So my mom was in Georgia by then. My mom moved and left to Detroit, so I went to Georgia too. So back in my mom's. So at my mom actually wasn't there. She was on assignment. And so I'm there, get to Atlanta, no job prospects, none. Never been a big deal for me to up and go, but no job opportunities. So I ended up calling my grandmother, who lives here in Florida, over in St. Petersburg. And I just said, well, maybe I can just put a few things out and use your address and, see what's going on. She said, okay. So I did that, and I got hired at the Housing Authority. And that was in 2011. I worked there 2 years. I just quit that job on February 1st, and I'll tell you all about why. So in that time, as far as education is concerned, I changed my major 3 times. I went from veterinary medicine to computer engineering to business. And in 2006, I started at Grand Canyon University, which is an actual campus, and it's a private university in Phoenix. But I decided to go online. because I didn't want to go to nobody's campus and sit anymore. I was tired of that. And because I had been in school since 1995. Here it is, 2006, no degree. So I went online. I got my first degree, bachelor's degree in applied management in 2009 while I was in Arizona. That was the biggest accomplishment for me. Then I decided that I wanted to get an MBA. I wanted a master's. I always wanted a master's. That was always my plan, to get an MBA. I was going to get a computer engineering degree and then get an MBA. And so I went right back to school. I got my MBA in 2011 while I was here in Florida. I finished that up here. I held through those classes through a move through Chicago when I was doing my bachelor's, through a move to Georgia while I was doing my master's, and a move to Florida while I was doing the master's. I kept it going and I kept it moving. Now I'm back in school again. I'm doing a Master's of Information Technology with a concentration in business analysis. My goal now is to bridge the gap between those two. Now, why did I say all that? Because if you notice, if you paid attention, I've been poor, I've been broke, I've been unemployed, I've been uneducated, up to high school. I have been on Section 8. I've received food stamps. I received WIC. Did I receive cash assistance? I believe I did when my son first came. Cash assistance, you name it. You name it. Turn it around. I have a 13-year career in the housing industry. I have a bachelor's degree. I have one master's degree. I'm working on another master's degree. I have a nice, comfortable home, which is to my liking. I have 2 cars, 2 barking dogs, a turtle, and some guppies over there. So I said all of that because my life wasn't easy. I got divorced parents. I got brothers and sisters that we don't have the same father. I was a single mother for a long time. My son doesn't live here anymore. He lives with his father now. But I was a single mother for a very long time. I didn't receive no child support. Let me make that clear. Not a one. They wanted to say my child had ADD, ADHD, and all this other kind of stuff that I wouldn't buy into, wouldn't feed into. I've been mistreated by men. I mistreated myself. I wasted years with dudes. I've been in domestic violence situations, not once, not twice, but 3 times, after I watched my mom and my sister both go through the same thing. So I said all of that in this introduction to bring it all full circle, is that I know where you are, and we can make it through this together. We can do it. I want to give you ideas. I want to, generate some thought, provoke thought in you and put some things out there that's just everyday life. It's just everyday life things that you may have been wanting to do but didn't do. I did this every day, in my job a few months ago. And, all the girls that I met on my property and when I worked in the Section 8 department, I tried to pour into them. They wanted to go to school. Let me help you. Do you need to, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Have you thought about student loans? Is it undergrad or is it grad school? How many kids do you have? Do you need child care? Where have you looked? Are you working? You can do this. There's no reason to hate on the next person. There's no reason to hate on me. There's no reason to be envious of me, because I came from nothing, in a sense. We didn't grow up. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. We grew up on food stamps. I know what the block cheese looked like. I don't eat it, but I know what it looked like. I never ate no mayonnaise sandwiches either. Let me just put that out there. But we ate plenty of oatmeal. My mama would laugh at you now, but I love oatmeal. We ate plenty of oatmeal and beans, and I still love beans. But we didn't grow up like that. Value Village clothes, So, and I'm not a materialistic person still to this day. I don't wear Value Village clothes. Sometimes I do thrift shop, but now it's by choice. It ain't by necessity, it's by choice. So that's where I'm at. I'm gonna keep this video to about 20 minutes. I'm gonna come back to you tomorrow. I'm gonna let everybody digest these 2 videos. You know, if you have ideas, if you have things that you think that needs to be touched on, or you want to see touched on as a black woman, leave a comment, send me a message. The trolls out there, you know, I know they're out there. I know they're gonna come and blah 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 blah. That was for you. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm not into no YouTube beef, none of that stuff, you know. This dog is crazy. She just jumped all the way over there with a pair of underwear. Let me get the dog. So, on that note, YouTube, in that case, oh, and it's 4 o'clock, and I'm a Girl Scout leader, so I gotta get to my meeting. So with that, all that said, I bid you adieu for today. I'll be back tomorrow, and I made it through the end of the video, and now they're barking. Good day. Peace.